Hello. Hey, everybody. It's Monday night. Glad you're here. We're about to start our countdown. If you're joining us on replay, you may want to skip about 11 minutes. That's when I will bring James Wright on. Or you can enjoy the countdown with us. Thanks for being here.
Just buying that software isn't what makes the difference. You've got to learn to use that tool, just like you've got to learn to use your high-end Powermatic woodworking tools or Festool for Sedge out there.
So I think you got to kind of leverage all of it.
And I just realized this is a new camera. I didn't take off the protective plastic over it, so I don't know if that was blurry or not for you. Oops.
Oh, hey, look at that.
In your little intro, which was very well put together, as I was sitting backstage and you had all these little clips from your previous guests, there was lots of good information in there, but somebody mentioned, just finding that thing that you love and do the thing you love. Don't make things that you don't like making.
In terms of growing a business, especially a business where you make things, is make the things you want to sell. I want to say Brad Rodriguez said this many times a while back, where it's like, if you don't want to sell cutting boards, stop making cutting boards. If you want to sell tables, make some tables and sell them at a loss if you have to, just to get some tables out there you sold. You attract clients that you can show you've actually made a thing. If you're trying to sell couches, don't keep making coasters telling people you can make couches. Make some couches.
A lot of times, usually when people start out on YouTube or when they're building a YouTube channel, they'll feel like their energies, if it's a scale of 1 to 10, they'll feel like they're at like an 8 or a 9, and they'll be like, woohoo! But then when they actually watch themselves on camera, it's actually more like a 2 or 3.
We do take sponsors, especially as a lot of the smaller channels. And there's two ways they talk about sponsorship. Sponsorship is someone paying you to do something, and the other one is getting free tools and stuff.
Launch day is my favorite day. That is my favorite day of the week. I just absolutely love launching videos and getting the feedback. So yeah, that's most videos take 4 to 5 full days to make. And I would like to streamline that. I would like to put out more videos in a week.
It's really kind of sad because I didn't get involved even when he was doing the noodle boards. He pretty much did all that. I did everything in the house so that he could stay in the shop a lot.
I am a little conflicted, I think. It initially started off with just sharing like my sewing machines and sewing tips and stuff like that. And then it kind of morphed into sharing the Mastering Mayhem merch items that I was making. And then along the way, I kind of shared some DeWalt tool and obsessions that I've had.
Hats off to Ira. I mean, I can't imagine doing it with small kids. That's a lot of work.
Well, this is a little chaotic, so.
My part really didn't start until Live Edge started. When we started Live Edge, I don't know, I felt different about everything. It felt real to me. I think everything started feeling real to him, after the first few months because he was in the shop. It didn't really feel real to me until Live Edge started. And now I see this as my future too. I don't think I'll be a teacher much longer.
Because I wasn't quite niched enough, but I think because my channel name is I Don't Even Work Here, I think I'm just going to roll with.
I'm going to put out some shorts for stage.
One thing I'm good at probably more than anything else is business and understanding the way businesses work and how to run a business. And I always come from very much the money ball approach. I don't want to hit home runs. I just want to get on base and get on base and get on base.
And I think it's easier for people to look at my story, for example, or anybody like in a similar story and think that was an easy decision. And I can't state how much that was a very hard decision for both my wife and I.
I like the premise of doing a tool review, comparing two tools, and especially if they are popular tools.
You can make the life you want to, you can make the business you want to, whatever it is you want to make.
It wasn't like YouTube's good and this and that. Like I was still pretty new to YouTube and didn't know that was sustainable long term, and so it was a gamble. And I'd worked for a long time to get in the position I was at, and it was a very, very hard decision to basically give that up for potentially the rest of my life.
I never even considered the second channel. I just think all of my content needs to go where I am.
It's a lot of risk and fear, but moving through those deliberately.
There's a system to it, and you follow that system.
So what have you learned and done to try to change? And so that's the thing I always use. It's a continuous process of evolution.
Scheduling and trying to edit and get a video out, like it's really hard to follow exactly. If you do that and do it consistently, it'll generate views.
Interesting. A lot of times you might see channels or businesses that are frustrated because they're not growing, and you look and you realize that for years or dozens of iterations, you look at the most recent and you go back a few years or a few dozen iterations and there's zero change.
I'd like to see channels evolve into more of like a channel, like we're traditional like TV channel, where you have a channel, but there's different shows within that channel. And you could have the segment for your shorts or your live streams and your longs, all these different things, and people can kind of just pick and choose what they want to watch.
And my goal isn't to get the most views on YouTube. My goal is to provide confidence, inspiration, and knowledge through entertaining and engaging content. So
what's the next step? What is the next thing? What's going to get you to that next place?
You got to get them to click. You got to get them to watch. I'm terrible at thumbnails. I hate doing them. I would stress so bad over doing them. I've actually hired somebody else to do them now. That's why they look different. I'm not doing them anymore. I took that out of my hands, and I'm stress-free on that part.
Another thing is also onboarding people that are better than me at something. So I have an editor I've been working with for about 2 years now.
One day it just kind of hit me that, okay, I watch a lot of these videos and I obviously find value in them. Why can I not be the person on the other side of the camera, right? Providing the content and the information.
With me being a business-minded individual and trying to make sure that I'm providing for my family, but also always growing.
Our audience smells authenticity, and whether or not you're enjoying what you do very easy.
I'll always be that individual that loves YouTube, that always wants to do extremely detailed videos on how to build.
I feel like the biggest challenge is probably getting yelled at to put on protective.
I'm still focused on my woodworking. I'm focused on trying to get better. I just want to try new things and break barriers and just be the best woodworker I can be, and then document that. I just don't really have the time or desire to really become a student of YouTube. So I'm always playing catch up. I'm always just doing the best I can to get the most out of what we're doing, but I am no student of YouTube, that's for sure.
A good plan of attack is to create a channel on YouTube or an account on YouTube that you don't have any ties to. You've never watched anything on there, and just start watching content you're interested in on that channel. Don't watch the news, or don't click off and start watching, the latest episode or whatever. Just use that account strictly for that, and that'll kind of start drumming up what's being surfaced to people. And then from there, you can kind of...
as far as equipment goes, and I say this adamantly all the time, there is nothing I've ever made that I couldn't make by hand. And I have a skill set that I've developed that I could make it by hand. Does having a CNC make it faster? You bet it does.
The big change that I've seen is that people have gotten even shorter attention spans than normal. So if you are going to start a YouTube channel and you're going to start recording yourself working, keep the pace really, really fast. People get bored super quick, and when they get bored, they either start tapping those arrow keys to speed through the video, or else they'll just drag the slider across the screen so that they can speed through and skip to the end and see what you've built. But if you want to engage them throughout the whole video, you've got to keep the pace really, really fast.
Basically structure your channel so that you generate more views. They watch one video, they're going to watch the next, the next, the next. If you look, and you can tell the difference I can see it in my analytics. I can see it in the way my channel's structured.
The first thing that I would recommend to anybody, and this of course applies to any niche that you're looking to start a channel for, is before you even take the first steps in terms of researching and all that, which we'll talk about in a second, I would have a really honest conversation with yourself about what you're looking to get out of the channel and what your expectations are.
As a rule of thumb, post-production takes 6 times recorded footage length. Not shoot time, but recorded footage length. So if you record a 5-minute clip, it's going to take you a minimum of 30 minutes to edit that 5-minute clip, even if you only edit down into 30 seconds, because you have to watch it, then you make some notes, and then you watch it again, you make some cuts, and you watch it again, and then when it fits into the timeline, by a rule, you're going to see that same clip roughly 6 times.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
Welcome to the show. Glad to have you here. We're here to make Monday nights great. I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate our guests being here tonight. I want to remind you that it's always my opinion. The chat is where it's at. Chat it up with each other. Chat with me and the guest. You will get more out of the experience the more you put into it. I believe that this is a great time to exchange ideas. And speaking of exchanging ideas, if you have a question, please start your chat comment with a Q, and that way it helps me identify it. So we try to get all the questions answered. And if you are celebrating a milestone of any type, whether it be on YouTube or in your personal life, somebody was born, somebody got a promotion at work, whatever the case may be, I want to celebrate with you. Let's start out by celebrating. We have over 500 subscribers with us on this channel now, and we're growing, and I appreciate every single one of you. So thank you for being here live with us or watching us on replay. Thank you very much. Let's bring in our guest. I got to put on the sexy goggles to do this. He is Wood by Wright on YouTube, specializing in the joy of hand tools. How great is that? That's something I want to discuss tonight. He also has Wood by Wright How To on YouTube, a secondary channel. And he has woodbywright.com. And I noticed on there are some free plans and some paid plans that you can get for your woodworking plans. Or you can buy things like a card scraper. It looks like he has a really nice scraper for sale. And I saw on Instagram, I think that he had those in stock. So that may be something that interests you. Even if you're not interested in other hand tools, a good scraper is hard to find. And he thinks he's got a great one. He is Wood by Wright on Instagram with over 29,000 followers. His primary YouTube channel has over 200,000 subscribers, with the secondary channel having over 50,000 subscribers. Please help me welcome James Wright.
Hey, y'all. How you doing?
Hey, James. What's up, buddy? How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Enjoying the night.
Yeah, thanks for agreeing to be on with us. It was a little planning, a little time to do the planning to get you here, but I appreciate you making the time and making this work. Is everyone, I think there was an illness in your home. Is everyone healthy now?
Yeah, a couple weeks ago we got back from vacation, and we all caught something at one point or another. So we're all healthy now, though. Life is good.
I hope you had a great vacation and recovered quickly. So that's always good. We generally have some good activity in the chat, and we have some of the best viewers on YouTube. So I expect we'll be hearing some questions from them later. But I'd like to start out by asking some questions. First of all, I know that your channel is primarily on hand tools, which is great. But what is your background with woodworking? And I know you've worked with power tools. Why did you land on? I mean, tell me a little backstory here to get me to that point where you landed on hand tools as this is the path forward.
Well, I've been woodworking since I could stumble into the shop. My father learned woodworking when I was about 5 from a friend of his, and I have been in his shop ever since. So I grew up making all the furniture in the house. By the time I was married, I had a full set of furniture for the house we moved into, and I was all power tools. I mean, my father had a set of chisels hanging on the wall, but they were as dull as the screwdrivers. They were never used. They were just, you've got to have chisels. We had no hand planes in the shop. It was 100% power tools. And that's the way I rolled. And so when I got married and moved out of the house, I had a full shop, all the power tools, and started making things as a hobby that kind of paid for itself. But then we moved, and then we moved again, and we moved again. And before my youngest
reached 3 years old, he had lived in 5 different houses. And every time we moved, we ended up having to sell more and more because the spaces kept getting smaller, and moving large pieces of tools, sometimes it's just easier to sell them. But the last house we were in, we had no space at all. It was a tiny house. There was no space for the shop. And I didn't even have a place to store anything I had. So I basically sold all the tools I had. And I mean, all the tools I had. And I just kind of assumed, like, I guess I'm not woodworking anymore. I don't have any space for it. It was also around that time I became a stay-at-home dad. So my background before that was in a bunch of things, but I was the a scene shop supervisor of a metal shop at a theater in Pennsylvania. But we were paying the babysitter about as much as I was making to work. So we found it was just better for me to stay at home and live on my wife's income. And so I became a stay-at-home dad and started tearing my hair out. And when we moved into this house, there's a small space in the basement, about 8 foot by 10 foot ish. And I watched a video from Worth the Effort. He was making a grooving plane with just hand tools. And I thought, I could do that. And because they're hand tools, it doesn't require any space at all. I can do it in a tiny shop. I can do it with the kids around while I'm at home. It's quiet for when they're napping. I don't have any problem with them coming into the shop. It's safe. It's in the basement, so I'm not dragging things all over the place, and I can have a hobby to keep myself sane. And it was kind of one of those aha moments that I could relearn woodworking, because I knew all the woodworking. I just knew it all from the power tool side, and I had to learn the hand tool side. But from my background, anytime I picked up a new hobby, I would just start recording it. And I have like 11 different channels from different hobbies over the years. And for some reason, people started watching it. And my first few videos were just dumb videos of, look, here's a hand plane. I'm going to take it apart and restore it and get it back up and going. And people asked questions, which it was easier to make a video to answer the question. And someone asked another question that made another video. And now I'm a full-time YouTuber. So
how awesome is that? You just kind of developed into it because of circumstance and your own motivation to get back in there and make something.
Yeah, if you watch my the main channel, that is my entire hand tool journey. From the video was literally shot on the day I purchased my first hand plane.
That's great, and people just joined in. I think there's a few factors. I mean, there's a natural interest that all of us who consider ourselves creators feel a need to be making something, and there's always a interest in hand tools, because they, like you say, they don't take up a lot of room. You can use them almost anywhere. There's no noise ordinance problems whenever you're using them late at night. There's also like this ASMR type quality to watching someone use hand tools. The little sounds whenever you see those shavings fall off the wood, that I think attracts viewers into watching it and enjoying those type of videos.
That's actually the reason why I split it into 2 channels, is because there's a very large audience on YouTube who don't care about the making. They don't care about how it's being done. They just want to watch someone make something with their hands and hear the noise. And so having a channel that's set aside for that, because it was making them really frustrated when I would talk and try and explain things. But then the people who want to learn things want to actually get the instruction. And so I had to split them up.
Yeah. In the past, putting on a video and listening to a table saw would put me, whenever I'm going to sleep. That was my ASMR. But I do have a respect and an interest in learning more about hand tools. There's something else I noticed about your channel is that you are definitely not hand tool elitist. Am I using the right terminology? You don't look down on those that use power tools.
Yeah, the demoned yellow brace comes out from time to time.
There's a tendency for some woodworkers to think that they're doing fine woodworking and CNC machines are cheating, and and some even say a table saw is cheating. So everything piles on like that. So your channel started growing, and how did you say you just made one video after another to answer questions, but how did you stay motivated throughout that process?
Motivation comes and goes. For the first 5 to 6 months, it was the channel growth. It was absolutely, I went from, I think one to 1,000 in the first 6 months, and it was quite the ride. I was not expecting it, and that really got me going. But then eventually the speed tapered off, and the thing that drives me now is the community. Is that there are people out there who have questions, and I can help them out, and actually being able to build that community and watch other people grow. And there's a certain passion that comes in for the first 6 months or so of anyone starting off a new woodworking hobby, is that fun of diving into it and figuring it out and making a mess and getting past the struggle. And I love helping them get through that. And I think that is what drives me on more than anything else, is answering those questions.
Yeah, I think that with YouTube, one of the greatest things about YouTube is these communities. That's why we have a woodworking YouTubers channel, is to build a community and support those who want to learn about woodworking and or YouTube, and piece all that together. As you mentioned, there's a lot of motivation during those first months, whether it be the first months learning a new hobby or first months creating the channel. A lot of adrenaline rushes as you hit those initial milestones. Do you still get those adrenaline rushes whenever you hit 200,000? Was that a big?
Oh, well, 200,000 wasn't as big as 100,000, but I mean, yeah. It was still something that was a very big point in that day.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm at the point with this channel. I'm thrilled that we have, we're 6 months in and have 500 subscribers. So I understand that. And I think a lot of our viewers look forward to those milestones. And I think it's important to celebrate those milestones. Oh, yeah. And that's one reason we try to do that here as well, celebrate everybody's milestones. What are your favorite hand tools to work with?
Usually I have whatever hand tools in my hand at the time. I don't play favorites that much, but if I had to use one tool to do anything, it would be the 1/2-inch chisel. It's just the most versatile tool in the shop. I've actually done several projects where I've gone into the woods and only used a chisel to build something. I chopped down a tree and made a bench using only a chisel. And from planing the wood down to smooth, to drilling holes, to making the tenons and shaping it all together to make there's something fun that happens when you start limiting yourself to methods of how you do something, because it forces you to learn new skills to do something that you already know how to do, but to do it differently. And I think that's one of the big things that really motivates me, is trying something new, trying to do it a different way. It may be a much slower, much more painful way to do it, but the process of learning along the way is really a lot of fun. And that kind of drives me on.
Yeah. I saw where you made that huge slab table, and it just turned out great. Congratulations on the way that turned out. I could tell in the video, or at least I perceived in the video, your excitement about it as it finished, and your excitement that you were able to do that with those tools. I think it was great.
I love sitting at the table every day as I look into it, and it's just it's got so much going on top that there's always something to look at.
I did see a question from Sandy earlier about motivation. She says, I am losing motivation. I feel I grind and really not seeing any growth. Any inspiration and kick in the pants is appreciated. And so Sandy is our moderator. She shared your links on our chat, and I appreciate her doing that. But Sandy and her husband have a lumber mill, and she has the YouTube channel to go along with that. Any advice for her to get motivated?
Yeah, I mean, if your motivation is the growth, it will come and it will go, and it will leave much faster than it ever comes. Um, Growth does motivate. Oh, yes. And I've had this several times where the channel has really started to pick up because some video did wild. And those are always really fun. But the moment that video starts to even slightly tip down, you go into this doldrum of, oh, I don't want to do this anymore, even though you're higher than you've ever been on your channel ratings. Yeah, that is a very fickle motivator, but it's a very powerful one. Usually, for me, the motivation is shaking it up, trying something different, and not being afraid to fail. Go ahead and try and make a dumb video. Make something that has a passion. Something that, yeah, this sounds like a really good idea. When I do it, it's probably not going to be a good idea. I mean, speaking along those lines, if you go and look at the top 10 videos on my channel, almost all of which have over 1 million views, only 2 of them did I ever think were going to be good. The other 8 were stupid, dumb, trash videos of, oh, stink, it's Thursday morning, I have to have a video out in 2 hours, and I don't even know what I'm going to do. Quick run down to the shop, shoot something, edit it together, and put it out there. And those are the videos that take off every time. And I don't know why, but yeah, the dumb videos that don't take any time or any effort, but I still like doing them, just because I'm talking off the top of the cuff. And I think that actually, that kind of forces the passion to come through when I'm not actually thinking it. I didn't script anything. I'm just talking. And I think that really brings out a lot.
Well, why do you think those do well?
I don't know. I mean, they were like how to sharpen scissors. Dumb video. That was literally, I normally have a video come out around 11 o'clock on Thursdays. And I usually shoot it Friday night or Thursday morning. But at like 9 o'clock, I woke up, I got out of bed, I was groggy, and then suddenly realized I've got 2 hours until a video's due. And I walked downstairs, I stood behind my bench, and I was looking at everything. What haven't I made a video about? I mean, I've made almost 2,500 videos now. And I looked down, there's a pair of scissors. I'm like, well, I've never done a video on sharpening scissors. Let's do that. And yeah, I think it's got 2 million views, something like that. It's stupid. My first how to do boiled linseed oil was one of those. I had no idea what to do about, but I'd never done a video on applying boiled linseed oil, and it's taken off. Just I don't know why. No idea.
I've seen both of those videos. So yeah, they're informative. I'm sure they hit they ranked in search. What how do you enjoy the YouTube process? Do you enjoy the video editing, the whole post-production process?
Not as much. One of the things that I do that is the wrong way to do it, but it's the way I've decided to do it, is that I will not I will not put any more effort into a video than I want to put into it. So I don't do much of any SEO. I don't write any blog posts. I don't put much of any searchability into the videos because I don't want to do that. I want my time to be spent on doing the things that I want to do. And so when it comes to videos, I don't script anything. I never script a word. And if I did script, my videos would do far better. I would be able to cut out a lot of the fluff. I'd be able to organize my thoughts better, and the videos would do better. But I hate scripting, so I'm not going to do it. And I've just understood that. So when it comes to video editing, I have really stripped that down. Like on my Thursday videos, I'll have a topic that I'll think about for a little while. It'll be rattling around the back of my brain, and I'll come down. And it's very rare if a shoot for me takes more than 20 minutes. I'll have 15 minutes of footage. I'll throw it into the computer. It'll have 30 to 40 clips. And I'll just they're all set up that they're just a string of consciousness, and I trim the beginning, I trim the end, and if there's any moment in the middle I pause, I'll cut that out, and so it's just cop, render it. And that's the totality of my Thursday editing. However, for the Saturday videos, I want to do more editing in that, and those are usually 200 or 300 video clips, because those are actually build videos. And so those ones I have outsourced my editing for those, and Luke takes all those files and crops them out, and he ships me a run video around 10 minutes long that's all those clips shoved down. And then I do a quick editing of putting on the intro and the outro and doing a little bit of color on it and ship it out. So for me, the editing on those is only like 20 minutes each. And then I'll do a voiceover on the Thursday, so that it's more of a how-to style on the second channel on Thursday.
What software are you using to edit?
Premiere Pro.
Okay.
Yeah, I do the $20 a month subscription, and I've done that now for 6 years. When I started out, I didn't do that, and it's not worth that unless you're using it quite a bit. But I'm putting out 4 videos every week, from the live, the Thursday video, and 2 Saturday videos, and then sometimes I'll throw in something else. And so, with the amount of editing I do and having a system in place for it, it's well worth every penny.
So Sandy has another question. So how do you get so many videos out? Both your channels are impressive. I mean, so many of us struggle with getting out on a regular basis, but you're doing multiple videos a week. What's your schedule like?
Well, it all boils down to 2 things. Number one, I've made it a habit. And it's just something that is naturally ingrained to me that I'm not thinking about, but at certain times on certain days of the week, I just automatically go and do it because it's part of what I do. But the other big one is that it's streamlined. I don't do anything I don't have to do. I don't do anything I don't want to do. And I have spent a lot of time actually working on presets, so I can just plug in the files and it spits out a video. And so for me, my normal week is Monday. Well, for the Saturday videos, all of the build videos, we generally shoot those every 2 weeks, 1 day a week. So all the footage for the Saturday videos is usually shot only 2 6-hour sessions a month. And so if it's a week where Luke is going to be coming, we're going to be shooting those. Monday, I spend most of the day getting things ready, and I do kind of the cooking show thing where I have like 2 pieces set up at different stages. So I can do up to the glue up, and then, oh, look here's a panel already glued up, and then I can do the rest of it onto the end. And so I get all that set for him. And so then Tuesday he comes from 7 until around 2 p.m. We just shoot clips, and clip after clip after clip after clip. And it's usually somewhere around 20 gig or so of video footage shot in that time period. And that will be all the footage we need for 4 of the Saturday videos throughout the next 2 weeks. And there's usually several videos we're working on ahead of time. So we'll be working on 5 or 6 different projects during that time period. Because some we just can't all get done in one time. Then later on in that Tuesday, usually at around 3 o'clock, I organize and put together the live video, and I'll put out the link for that. 7 o'clock on Tuesday, I get everything actually set up, get the live running. 8, it goes live. 9, it's done. By 9:30, I have it all wrapped up, cleaned up, and uploaded. Wednesday is the shop day. If there's something I need to do that's taking a lot of time, I'll put it in there. But most of the time, Wednesday is a day that I'm going to do other things around the house, mowing the lawn, that type of thing. So that's kind of my flex day. Usually Thursday morning or Wednesday night, I will take the 20-30 minutes needed to shoot the Thursday video. Thursday morning, I'll come down, edit and upload it. That's usually about an hour to an hour and a half worth of work. And then the rest of Thursday is, if Saturday's video is going to take a lot of work, I might work on it Thursday, but the rest of that is the odd project that has to be done in the shop or organizing things. Friday is all about editing and rendering the 2 Saturday videos. So doing the editing for both of those, pulling the clip that Luke sends me, doing the voiceover on those, getting those edited and uploaded. And oftentimes that is when I'm also going to be doing a lot of the organization of, like if I'm talking about a product in the video that I have to get up on the website, I have to actually put that up on the website, shoot the stock clips for that and that type of thing. And then Saturday and Sunday, I reserve those. Those are just family. Unless something absolutely has to get done, those are the family times. But all of that is only about 40% of the actual work of Wood by Wright. 60% of the work is the audience, is answering comments, is answering emails, is staying up to date on. I have a Discord server that's the hive mind, a Facebook group that's the hive mind. Staying up with those. And I try and put the vast majority of my time into responding to people, helping them out, answering things. With Patreon, I do a bunch of one-on-ones where people are saying, "Hey, I'm having this problem. Can you do a one-on-one with me over video, and we can talk through it and work on it." Helping someone with basic things of learning how to sharpen, or sometimes just shooting the breeze. Sometimes people just need a friend. So it's all those things that really take up most of the time.
Yeah, that's where the service side of what you're doing really comes in, is providing more than the videos. It's the interaction, the answering questions, and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a question related to that. Adam Jones says, do you find that the Discord channel is a source of inspiration, or is it just a ad hoc?
Yeah, I mean, I have gotten quite a few ideas from that. I'm trying to think, there was a video recently that was, I think it was the pinch rods or something. Quite often I'll get a question on there, and it will spark something that will rattle around in my brain, and eventually it comes out as a video topic. I have on my sheets upstairs right now, but I have a very, very long list of topics. It's very rare that I don't have something. But it's about once every 2 months or so on a Thursday morning, I'll come down here and be like, "Oh, stink! I got to do a video today. What am I going to do it on? I don't know." For instance, actually this last week, it was actually one of those. How did I get started on YouTube? But that was actually one that was a question from someone a couple weeks ago, and it was one of those topics that's been rattling around in my brain. And it came up with a few things that I wanted to say in video.
Video is always a great way to reply to those type of questions.
Yeah.
So you're making a go at this as a stay-at-home dad, right? And do you have sponsors?
No, I have done a couple sponsors in the past, and every time it's not anything like because I don't like being sponsored. I don't like people telling me what to say. It's just it's more work, and I haven't found the amount of work required to maintain and run sponsorships to be something that's really worth it. And so I have to really I try to really focus on the audience, and sponsors just haven't kind of jived with that. Do I have a problem with that? No. Am I going to do them in the future? Maybe. I just haven't really gotten into that. And I kind of have the added blessing that I make about as much as my wife does as a nurse, and we could kind of live off of either income. So I don't have to do anything financial wise. If for some reason my wife had to quit her job and mine became the only one, I would change quite a bit. I would probably do sponsors. I would do more scripting. I would spend a lot more time actually focusing on videos and getting a higher quality out there. But I have the blessing of being able to do what I want to do because I want to do it. And I think there's part of that comes out in in the video, in that I honestly love doing everything I do on videos.
It comes through. It definitely does. So even as a unnecessary that you have to make an income doing this, it's nice to make money for your efforts. What are your income streams?
I make it's currently about 20% from YouTube ads. It's about 20% from Patreon. It's about 20% from sales, and about another 20% or so from affiliate links. And then another 20% is just all the other little odds and ends that come out. Occasionally I will sell something I make, but that's pretty rare. Like the dining room table, it's about once a week I'll get a comment or someone saying, "Hey, how much would it cost for you to make one of those for me?" And my response is $25,000 to $26,000 for that table, and I haven't gotten a reply yet.
No, I imagine the people are not lining up with those kind of bucks, but
Yeah.
it's
when you're making things all hand tools, it takes a lot more time to do something. And I made a point to myself a long time ago that I am not going to sell something at a time loss for me. So I will only sell something if I can make a significant amount for my time I have into it.
Yeah. You're absolutely correct. You need to get compensated for the time you put in. People want handcrafted items. They're going to have to pay for that handcrafted skill, which is not something you obtain overnight.
Yeah.
So, whoops. Sandy's got another question. Can you discuss woodworking and YouTube as a business? What's your business approach? And if you had to make this, if you had to be the sole breadwinner in your home, how would you do it different than you're doing it right now?
Where I am right now, I'm making enough that I don't have to, as in, if my wife were to quit her job, we could live on what I'm making right now and not have to change too much. And I kind of like having that flexibility. But from a business standpoint, I'm doing everything wrong. I'm really, really botching a lot of it because there's a lot of things that I don't want to do. There's a lot of paperwork and organization that I don't want to do. I outsource taxes. I pay them, but I don't actually do any of the paperwork I don't have to do. I would definitely be far more focused on what I'm doing. I would be doing a lot more SEO because a lot of my videos, particularly my Thursday videos, are long tail videos. They are videos that won't do well today, but they will be consistent for a long time. I have almost 2,500 videos, and actually I think it's like 2,400 videos, something like that. Most of those are very long tail videos. They may only get 1 or 2 views a day, but 2,500 videos getting 1 or 2 views a day is a significant amount. And that is where I really try and focus things, particularly is trying to build up that long backlog and rely on the long-term consistency as opposed to the current boost of the video going live today. Partially because my wife and I are kind of viewing this as our retirement plan. I am investing in, number one, the long tail viability of my videos that I've created. And number two, I'm investing in the name Wood by Wright. The more I can make that name grow, the more I can draw on that name in the future, the more I can use it to do paid events where I can go and talk or do demonstrations and teach in live. And having that asset is very, very valuable to me. So those are the two things we're really focusing on. But if this were my only form of income and I needed to make sure that it was really, really strong and viable, I would be spending a lot more time on SEO. I'd be spending a lot more time actually doing the write-ups, blog posts, things like that put more text out there for YouTube to grab onto. I would also spend a lot more time actually scripting things, and that would then feed into the SEO, because if I'm thinking more about what I'm saying, I can make my videos funnier. I can make them more to the point. I can stop from repeating myself over and over again. And it makes my videos far more concise and watchable. But then I also have that script that I can pull out of the Word document and throw into the video and put more text in there for SEO. There's just a lot of things in that I would like to do if I had the time or I had the desire to do it. And my wife and I have talked about this quite a bit, is that if she ever quit her job, that would basically be what she would do. She would become the SEO for Wood by Wright, is writing the scripts and the subtitles and the blog posts and things like that I don't want to mess with. Yeah.
Excellent. So this mop is Luna. My family's not home tonight, so she's been barking and carrying on. So I'm just gonna hold her now. So you've been expanding your knowledge as you share knowledge about hand tools. So what's on the horizon? What talent do you want to develop with hand tools that you don't already have?
That depends. It depends on when you ask me and what I want to. I mean, there's hundreds of things I want to get into. When you really start talking about hand tools, there are two big things that people automatically assume you're going to want to get into. One of them is Windsor chairs, and the other one is timber framing. And I really don't want to do either of those. Neither of them sound all that intriguing to me. They just don't fascinate me. Though that may change in the future. If I had a big piece of property, I probably would build some timber framed building just to build it and have it as a long-term project. And there could be, hundreds of videos created from that. But I don't have the space for it. I don't have the desire to build a building. And so therefore I'm not getting into that. I have thought about getting into marquetry, doing some of that. Shannon Rogers has done a lot of that, and I would like to try that. But with marquetry, that's something that really starts to take up a lot of space. And I don't have that much space. I mean, my shop is my actual functional space where I do most of my videoing is 10 foot by 6 foot. My whole shop space is 10 foot by 18. But that then holds 4 benches, a lathe, and all of my lumber storage, all of my foot powered machines. And it's kind of tight. Not as tight as it would be if it was hand tool. But I think a lot of those other skills are just, I have to say, I don't think about it in terms of what skill do I want to learn as much as what project do I want to build and what skill do I need to build that project. So like from the timber framing standpoint, I don't really want to learn timber framing, but if I had a desire to build a timber frame building, then I would want to learn the timber framing. And so, I don't like doing a lot of things with molding. So I don't do any intricate thing, Queen Anne, Victorian style. I like a lot of chamfers. And so I like a lot of chamfers, but I don't like a lot of modern, postmodern appearances, which is kind of, I kind of stick with the mission style, which, doesn't have much. I'm trying to think if there's anything else particular, because as to skills, there isn't too much that's like, ooh, yeah, I really want to learn that. I have to say, I have done a lot of learning different skills. And so my base is very, very wide, but very shallow. And I think that's one of the big challenges that I'm currently working on, is taking a few skills and making them very, very deep. Like I've been doing a lot more of just general carving. Being able to freehand chisel work is one of those skills I can work on for the rest of my life and never really master. So I think that's what I'd have to say. Making the skills I have better.
Yep, that sounds good. Makes sense. Are there YouTube skills that that you'd like to improve? I mean, I don't know what your
Yeah.
experience with thumbnails or.
Well, thumbnails and titles, you're always running the razor edge of you want it to be clickbait-ish, but you don't want it to be clickbait. And so that's always an interesting thing to do, and that's a constantly moving target, because different things come into style, different things work at different times, and so that's something you stay on top of constantly. Particularly with YouTube, I really want to do shorts. I want to get into doing more shorts. And I have lots of ideas, because the hand tool woodworking would kind of aid itself into shorts, as I could do a lot of really quick how-to or simple hacks, or here's a tip. And that would really lend itself to doing, 1 minute long quick videos. I have not yet worked those into my regular plan. They haven't become part of the habit. I have shot short videos a dozen times. I probably have 30 short videos in a file that I could very quickly render out and make. But I haven't actually sat down and made one and uploaded it as a short yet. Someday I might, but I haven't quite gotten into that game yet.
Why does that attract you? And what interests you about doing shorts? What do you think it would do for you?
Over the next 3 to 4 years, that is really where a lot of the focus is going to be. And it really kind of is already. That is what a lot of platforms are working off of. And the nice thing about creating a short is you can put it all over the place. You can put it on YouTube, you can put it on Instagram, you can start Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, and you can create one file and put it up on all these places. And that is very useful for getting a name out and getting things broad. But it's also the format that a lot of the sources are really driving into. For instance, my brother, he's a gaming YouTuber. He actually just crossed 10,000 subscribers, and he has been growing. He is currently growing far faster than either of my channels. He's doing like 4,000 to 5,000 subscribers a month right now. And he puts out 2 shorts every day, and some of his shorts get 20 to 30,000 views. And that is where his subscriber space has been built almost entirely on shorts. And his average regular video is maybe 1,000 views in a week. But his shorts are usually several thousand. And it's really what's driving him. And I would like to jump on that and experiment with it. And there aren't many woodworkers that are doing a lot of shorts yet. The woodworking community tends to be a little bit more older, a little bit fuddy-duddy-ish. And it's usually about a year or two behind the mainstream YouTube. So if I see mainstream YouTube doing that right now, that means in a year or so, it's probably where it's going to be for woodworking as well.
All right. You want to give a shameless plug for his channel, so anybody interested in games can go check it out?
Yeah, he's oh, come on. The Backlog. There we are.
The Backlog.
The Backlog.
Okay.
It's actually an end-grain cookie with game controllers on it.
Oh, so nice.
The Wright family has to have a woodworking thing in there somewhere.
So some woodworking YouTubers have tried shorts with some success. Some have tried it with very limited success. You know, I've got a few. I think that 3 now with over 10,000 views on them. Nothing to write home about. But we had James King on here who talked about how he studied before he made his first short, and found that there are certain ingredients to put into it. And his first shorts video, I think he got over 20,000 subscribers off of one video. Mm-hmm. But, he put in some planning and made sure that it had a story. It had, it taught a neat principle. It was displayed. It wasn't just him sitting there talking. So done right, it could pull in the subscribers. My concern is once you get the subscribers, converting them to the longer form content and having them become part of the community.
Well, the golden thing with shorts right now is that they are the entry drug. They are a way for your name to get out there, and they really are, particularly for the how-to world, not just in woodworking, but crafting in general, is you have to have a lot of them out there. And I mean, you've got to be putting out 1 or 2 every day. It's not something you can do once a week or a few. I mean, yeah, you'll get limited success with it, but you've got to have a bunch of them. And the reason for that is when someone's scrolling, they'll watch 30 seconds or so, and they scroll on the next one, 30 seconds, that one, scroll on that one. And once they've seen the same person 2 or 3 times, then they'll stop and actually watch it. Because there's a familiarity that's created by just seeing the same face and seeing something that pops up. And YouTube is catching on to that, and it's throwing a bunch of faces at you, seeing which ones do you look at. And so if it sees you're actually viewing one more often, then it will put those shorts up in front of you more often. And eventually you'll get to the point where, yeah, I'm following this person, and every 5th to 10th video is going to be one of theirs. And eventually you find that you're liking watching that particular video. And once you find that you're actually liking that, then you're wanting to see more of it, and you're not liking just waiting for the next short to pop up. You actually have to click on the account and go see, well, what else have they done? So let me go to their channel. And that's when you get the subscriber, and that's when you pull them from shorts into regular content. So the shorts have to marry into the regular content. They have to be a shorter form of the existing content, so that when someone transfers from shorts into the regular content, they're still at home. They're getting the exact same thing that they're looking for, just in a longer format. And making that whole system come together is what's been holding me back, because that is going to take a lot of work, being able to create that much content and keep it coming. That's a lot of work.
Yeah. We have a Facebook group called Woodworking YouTubers, which is reserved for woodworkers who have YouTube channels. And so that's one of the topics that comes up, is whether or not shorts are a good thing or not a good thing. Is it worth pursuing? What makes a successful short? It's one of our common topics that seems to resurface. Mm-hmm. And I think it's still up for debate, but those who do it successfully, I think the debate's over for them. So if you want to do it, do it.
Well, whenever new methods or a new platform, or there've been all sorts of different things of doing lives, whenever any new format comes out, it's always, that'll never catch on until it does. And usually for me, it's about 1 out of 5. If I really apply myself and do something well and really focus into it, it's about 1 out of 5 that actually stays in my system. But I would never get that 5 and never get that 1 unless I do the other 4 bad ones.
Sure.
And you're never going to know if it's going to work for you until you do it. And what works for me won't work for you, and what works for the other person might work for me. You never know until you try it, because there are some things that fit for one format that don't fit another. And even like in the niche of the niche of the niche of hand tool woodworking, for one channel, something will work very differently for another channel. It really just depends on the individual.
Yeah. Got another question here. It's from 413 or 413 Furniture Builds. I have a dumb question. There's no such thing, I heard. How do you put clips of movies or cartoons, etc., without copyright problems?
Well, first off, there is a dumb question. It's, what size screw should I use? I hate that question. You take the thickness you're going through into the thickness you're going into, and you put them together, and that's your screw size. I hate that question. Don't. That's the easiest way to answer it is don't. If you want to make YouTube revenue, yes, there are ways you can do it, but it usually comes down to being a pain, and fighting the system is just something that it doesn't happen on YouTube. So my general suggestion is, if it's copyrighted material, don't try and find a way to get it in there. Just don't do it. Yes, you can. And yes, there are ways of sampling small stuff. But for the people who do it regularly, it ends up being a huge pain in the backside.
Yeah, our latest guest was Joseph Mullins from Jojax, and Joseph said, don't put any in the clips because he keeps hearing about the 3-second rule or the 7-second rule. And the thing is, even if you're getting by with it today, it doesn't mean YouTube won't flag it later.
Yep.
And if using a copyrighted single image is a problem, think of using video as 24 or 30 images per second of copyrighted images that you're putting up there.
Yep.
Then I've also heard the argument that Disney and the other big players don't have time to chase little channels. Well, you might not always be a little channel.
And also they don't do it. They create programs to do it for them.
Yeah.
And when a program flags you, you can't fight a program. It's set in stone. You can try with all you want, but it's yeah.
Another question from Sandy. I feel you are really authentic, genuine, and passionate to yourself and to your viewer. Any advice on knowing your community?
The only way you can get to know anyone is to spend time with them. The more time you can spend with them, the better. The problem when you're first getting started, though, is you don't have a community. So how do you spend time with the community? And for that, it is you attract who you are. So if you want to spend time with people that are different than you, then you're going to have to change who you are to attract them. But eventually you're going to get 1 or 2 people. And once you find 1 or 2 people, invest in them. Ask them, is there anything specific you want me to see? And if they don't answer that question, then don't ask them again, because asking someone the same dumb question over and over again is going to push them away. But do things for them. In other words, when I was first getting started, and I still try to, as I did a lot of giveaways. Small channel giveaways are a great way to build a community because you're directly giving back to the community, and it gets people a little bit more engaged in the channel. Is it going to build your channel? No, but it will help you build a deeper community and a connection with people, is when you are actually physically giving back to them. That is a very valuable thing. But yeah, the best way you can get to know your community is to spend time with them. Actually have a place where you can bounce ideas off of them. And whatever the thoughts are rattling around in your brain, put those out for other people to see. And that can be very scary. But when people see that you are willing to let them look into who you are and what you're thinking and why you're thinking those things, people become a little more invested in who you are. And that's a snowball that builds itself rather quickly. So yeah, spend more time with the people you want to be more invested in.
Yes. So whenever this channel first started back in December, and I don't know, probably into January, February, we were trying to do a lot of giveaways, and it gets taxing on the wallet. Not necessarily the items all the time, but the shipping and the time that you invest. But I've made a commitment that let's get this channel monetized, and any money off of AdSense through YouTube, 10% of it is going to go to St. Jude's for 2022 and 2023. 40% will be put into a fund to do giveaways, and then the other 50% reinvested in the channel. to get a little bit more equipment and maybe upgrade my StreamYard here.
Yeah.
So we want to see that happen. Here's a great question. What plane should a beginner start with? I'm sure you've heard this one before.
Whatever plane you've got. It depends on the person, because there are two types of people when they're learning a new skill. There is the person who learns through stubborn tenacity, and then there is the person who only learns if things go well. The person who only learns if things go well usually gets frustrated quickly and throws things across the room. And for that person, the best way to learn is the easiest method. That usually means buying a new, good quality tool. I would start with a Wood River or better. And in that case, you want really easy wood to work with. You're going to want some, poplar, walnut, cherry, and being able to practice with the easy things. If you, however, are like me, and it doesn't matter what comes up, you're going to get this skill done, then you're going to want to start with white oak and hickory. You're going to want to start with an old hunk of junk that's rusted, and restore it from trash. And honestly, restoring a plane that is totally beat up and misused and needs things repaired and replaced is a fantastic way to learn hand planes, because you have to learn, how does it actually function? What do these levers and knobs actually do? And not just the head knowledge of knowing that moving the lateral adjuster changes like that, but getting the hand knowledge down of the small tweaks and the way things go. The fastest way to learn that is to learn through the School of Hard Knocks. But it is a very hard one to get through. So it really depends on the person and the budget of what I generally suggest for that. But you have to know what you are before know which end of the pool to jump into first.
Yeah. So do you recommend buying used hand tools and to get started and doing that?
Yeah, if either your budget is limited, or you learn through stubborn tenacity, buy an antique tool. If you buy something that was made pre-war, it's a good quality plane. It doesn't matter what the brand is. Planes made back then were good, and if they were bad, they haven't lasted this long. So those planes, they're good as long as all the parts are there. You're going to have to learn how to sharpen. You're going to have to do rust removal. You're going to have to oil things up and get them functioning. But doing all those things teaches you a lot of the basics that you really have to know to use the tool well. One of the biggest downsides, though, is knowing what truly sharp is. And everyone thinks they know what sharp is. And that's one of those things you don't know until you've actually felt what truly, truly sharp is. And for most people, when they're first getting started with hand tools, they think, oh, this is sharp, and it cuts the wood and it's still making curls. But then the next time they sharpen it, they get it a little bit sharper, and they're like, oh, this is what sharp feels like. This is so nice. This feels great. And the next time they sharpen it, it's a little bit sharper. And they're like, oh, wow, this is what sharp. And it's like 6 months of constantly realizing a new level of sharpness until eventually it kind of plateaus out and you've gotten this standard sharpness you've finally gotten to. And that's not something you can ever learn on YouTube. And I can show what sharp is. I can show you what it sounds like. I can show you what it looks like, but I can't show you what it feels like. And until you experience that, it's the journey of getting to that point. And so many people go through that stage of learning what sharp is over and over again. It's kind of a fun experience.
What about, are there tools to avoid when you're first starting?
When it comes to hand tools, not so much, other than keep it simple, stupid. Don't go out and buy a Stanley 45 and 55. Yeah, they look really cool, but until you've mastered some of the basics of planes and chisel work and other things along that line, those really won't benefit you that much. But when we're talking about a particular plane,
don't buy anything from Harbor Freight or the big box store. If it costs less than $50 brand new, it's probably trash. If it costs less than $150 brand new, you're going to get frustrated, and it's going to take a lot of work to get that up and running. So again, know your learning style and your finances. But yeah, if it's less than $150 for the plane, realize it's not going to work out of the box. Well, it may actually work. You may actually get curls, but it's not going to be truly set up sharp and able to do really fine work. It's going to take a good bit of work to it. So that's why I usually tell people, go buy a $20 antique that's going to need to have its rust removed and resharpened, because that's going to be a far better plane than anything you can buy for $150. And it's once you actually get it up and running, it's going to treat you far better. But it's going to take just about as much work to get that up as it's going to take to get a $70, $80 plane up and running.
And what about investment in like sharpening tools, or diamond stones or whatever?
I used to say DMT plates don't get anything other than that, because for a long time, those were the only ones that actually had quality that would last. Because if you're going to sink money into diamonds, you need something that's going to last you for a while. Everything else was dying out within a year or two of use. However, in the last couple of years, we have seen, number one, the lower end brands, Trend and other ones like that, have really been upping their game and getting some quality stuff out of there. And also, we've been seeing some really dirt cheap stuff coming out that is honestly not that bad. It's going to wear out a little faster than the high end stuff. But on Amazon, you can buy for like $20, $25. You can get a set of 4 diamond cards that you can glue down to a wooden plate and have a diamond sharpening system for $20, $25. Yeah, they're not going to last as long. They'll probably wear out in 2 to 3 years. But they're surprisingly good for that. And for $25, I mean, you can't beat that with a stick. You can't even buy half of a regular good quality diamond plate, much less the other 3 you need for sharpening. So usually for a beginner, that's what I'm going to say is go get a cheap diamond card plate. They're just perfectly smooth diamonds. They're not the ones with the actual diamond pattern in with plastic sticking up through it. Stay away from those. But you can pick them up relatively affordable and get to sharpening. You go diamonds up to around 1,000, 1,200 grit, and then into a strop, and you've got just as sharp as you'd ever get on a 16,000 grit whetstone.
Yeah. So I would think that if it's $25 and it lasts 2 years, it's like renting it for $12 a year, right?
Yeah.
And while you decide if this is really what you want.
And in 2 years, you're going to know, I really want to go whetstones, or I really want to go into oil stones, because it's all about style after that. I mean, what is going to truly get your sharp? They'll all get it sharp. It's more or less what just fits your style. What do you want to work with? Yeah. I used to tell people get sandpaper, because sandpaper you can sharpen it pretty quickly, but you're going to spend about $20, $25 to buy a full set of sandpaper. So why not just get a diamond plate that's going to last you longer?
Yeah. AJ says, I bought a Harbor Freight plane and it works great to scrape off dried glue.
Wow, that's actually working pretty well then.
R.A. Charlie Guy says, what is your best method to remove rust from the tools?
Oh, we really want to start some arguments. Oh, yes. Okay, I'm going to really flip some people off here. But when you're first getting started, if you are strapped for money and you need to get rust off, sandpaper and vinegar works really well. It does. It will clean it off. You just have to be careful not to take off too much. You don't want to leave it in there too long. But it does actually eat through the rust really well. If you leave it in there too long, it's going to start eating into the steel. And you're going to hear a lot of the purists out there who they just turned off the channel and completely flipped away. But honestly, it works really well. If you've got a little bit of money to spend to it, my next step is something like a Vapor Rust or my a WD-40 rust removal specialist. You can buy them in 1 gallon jugs. Those really work really well, and a bath of that sitting aside can do some phenomenal things. The nice thing about that is it takes a lot longer. Like it takes a week or two sitting in that for it to really start to cause problems. So you can get a good bath with that. A lot of people are going to be purists into the electrolysis. Ooh, they're the highfalutin nice people. And that works really, really well. But it takes a lot to get one of those set up. And yeah, they're a lot more work than they're worth in my book. But for me right now, if I've got a really rusty plane, I'm going to soak it in Evaporust, let sit in that overnight, come back, scrub off the residue, and good to go. With the exception, if I'm taking the Japanning off and I'm completely stripping it, then I go straight into the sandblaster and just skip the rust removal. But if I'm still wanting to maintain Japanning or other paint on it, then I'll just do the Evaporust.
Yeah. So you start talking about rust removal and 3 people dropped off. I'm just kidding.
Wouldn't surprise me.
So we've talked about that. How do you maintain your hand tools once you get them refined? I know everybody goes back to the planes, but there's more hand tools than that. You've got your hand saws. I think you use a Western style saw a lot in your videos. How do you maintain those to keep them? How often do you sharpen? How do you prevent rust from reoccurring?
Well, I have 2 big bonuses. Number one, I'm in a basement shop. So my shop is fully air conditioned and heated. It stays about 66 degrees in here year round. I have right about 35 degrees humidity all year round. I don't really mess with rust that much. Rust is not something I have to think about. But even then, I have a regular oiling regiment that I do. And so once every 6 months, I go through with 3-in-1 oil and oil up every surface. Every tool in the shop gets a quick dusting and make them oiled. The best way to prevent rust is to use the tool. A tool that is in regular use generally will not rust, unless you're right on the coast and constant humidity problems. Rust is something that doesn't happen to a tool that regularly gets used. But oil is the best thing you can do. Just a regular regiment of oiling your tools. A lot of people will oil them when they put them away. I prefer to oil them once every 6 months, whether I use them or not, and just make sure that they are oiled. For sharpening, I sharpen them when they need it. And when it needs it is dependent upon the project. Like my scrub plane, that I sharpen once every year to 2 years, and I'll still use it every week. But it doesn't have to be that sharp to do good work. Unless I want to get that scallop finish and use that as my final surface. I don't sharpen that very often. My smoothing plane, it gets sharpened most every project I use it on, if not a couple times in the project, because that has to be truly sharp. That I keep really sharp. My carving chisels, those never ever touch a sharpening stone. Those get stropped every 4 to 5 minutes of use. There's a strop or 2 sitting on the bench, and I'll regularly be stopping my carving, strop, keep carving, and doing that keeps them sharp. Saws, my 4 or 5 most used saws usually get sharpened 3 or 4 times a year, depending upon their use. Chisels get sharpened constantly, but chisels are 30 seconds and they're done. I don't even think about sharpening those. If they just need a touch up, it's on the strop. Otherwise, I turn around and with the diamond plates, it's 10 strokes on each and strop and done. So those are pretty quick. But everything else, it's usually as needed. And as needed depends on the project. Some projects require a really sharp blade and some don't. So I don't mess with it then.
Yeah. So the maintenance, seems to be a big key. I mean, once you get your tools where you want them, you want to keep them nice. So let's shift gears a little bit back towards the community stuff. So you're active on Instagram, and I am not much of a Discord server, but it sounds like you have a community there, and you interact in both. about how much of your time you think you're spending on other media besides just YouTube?
YouTube is probably about 30% of my time of actually being on the app or on the website. I'd say Discord probably takes probably spend about another 30% of my time on Discord and the Facebook group. Discord, for those of you who don't know, is it's something that's set up and mostly used by gamers. And it's kind of like an old school forum, but with a lot of integrations and other things you can do with it. Like we have a finance system on there, and I can award people coins, and people can work on there to earn coins. And we have a bunch of bots and things that do weird, dumb things. And it's just kind of a fun hangout place. And everything is split up by channels so that you can have a channel for blood and gore. Hey, look at this, cut myself today. You can have one for, hey, look what I made, talking through problems, YouTube videos. I have a channel on there for other people who have YouTube channels so they can put up their own woodworking things and do some syndication on there. And it's just a good way to organize a community. And so I really like it. The problem is it's set up for gamers, and I'm trying to pull woodworkers into it. And so there's a lot of little education that has to go into it. And so I have a couple how-to videos at the beginning when you get into Discord that actually explain it. But yeah, once you get into it, it's a lot of fun. But there's a tall threshold you have to step over. The other 30% is emails and Patreon. Patreon isn't quite as busy because most of the Patreon connection actually goes through Discord. And I have a section in there that you only get access to if you're on Patreon. The two are tied together. But yeah, it's probably about 30% YouTube, 30% Discord, Facebook, and 30% Patreon emails and all the other sites, Instagram.
What kind of perks do your Patreon members get?
Well, the $1 a month is just a thank you. Thanks. $3 a month, you get access to the Patreon feed. And so on that, we do a quarterly hangout where 4 times a year I open up a Zoom account. We actually just had one 2 days ago. And anyone can get on and hang out for me with an hour or so. And we just shoot the breeze and look at each other's projects and kind of have a good time on that. I do, whenever Luke is here, we turn on the camera. And so people can see the behind the scenes of actually shooting all the footage. And people can hop on the chat and talk to us while we're doing that. Then I have name recognition at the end of videos. For the people that are 10 and up, we have a monthly hangout we do. So it's like the quarterly, but it's far more intimate. There's usually only like 4 or 5 people that hop on for that. And so it's a good way to actually get some one-on-one. And up from that, then the levels get on to monthly one-on-ones that I can get. And then actually just recently got our first The Man, which is $100 a month. And so I'm actually making a tool for him. Making his own, at least 1, if not 2 back saws. That'll be coming soon.
Yeah. I want to tell everybody, even if you have no interest in expanding your knowledge of working with hand tools, you need to go subscribe, because there's a lot of content on his channel that is not about using hand tools. For instance, making, he talking about boiled linseed oil and paste wax and making your own kind of thing. Sharpening scissors. I think that could, even if you work with power tools, you need a good set of shears in the shop. There's a lot of subjects on the channel. So even if you don't have that great interest, if you do enjoy hand tool woodworking, it is spot on. It's really great. Hillbilly Chic says, do you put a radius on your smoothing plane or leave it square?
All of my planes are perfectly flat and square. There's kind of three schools of thought. There is a full radius, so the whole iron is cambered ever so slightly, at like a 3-foot radius. Then there is the just do the corners of it. Paul Sellers does that, and he'll just round the corners, just a tiny bit, but the main sole is flat. And then there are those who like to keep it perfectly flat all the way across. And I like to keep it perfectly flat. I have all of my irons except for the scrub plane are just perfectly flat. I find that to be a little easier. There are pros and cons to each one. The big problem with having it perfectly flat is plane tracks. And so when it's actually cutting in on the edge, you'll get this little step where it goes from the old height down to the new height. But if you are smoothing with a thin enough shaving, you cannot feel that plane track with your hand. And so I generally don't mess with it because of that. I find it to be just one more step. And one of the things I try and do on my channel is eliminate steps. I try and eliminate extra things that are needed. That's one of the reasons why I love freehand diamond sharpening is it's fast, it's easy, and you don't have to do anything extra. No secondary bevels, no back bevels, just do it. And so if I don't have to sharpen the wings, if I don't have to round and camber it, that just makes it that much easier. And I have never found it to be a problem if you're taking a thin enough shaving. So just my 2 cents.
I love this comment from Adam Jones. James is a really bad influence if you're into hand tools.
I've made people spend more money than their wife said they should. So sorry.
No, I think that's great. That means you're motivating people. If they are watching you and they leave video wanting to go buy more expensive stuff, you've been an influencer.
Yeah, that's actually one of the Patreon benefits I've told a few people about is that if I'm going to be talking about a tool ahead of time, I'll tell patrons so that they can go and buy it on Amazon before it's sold out.
That's great. All right. So anybody else have a question? Go ahead and get it in. But I want to just ask you, what do you do for fun other than woodworking?
Well, let's see, about 11 years ago, I had a YouTube channel. I still have it. It has no subscribers, but it was a channel called Hobbies Done Right, where every week I started a new hobby. And that really is my hobby, is collecting hobbies. I do all sorts of things. Water bottle rockets and machining, and cross-country running, ultra running, just anything. If there's some interesting, odd thing to see or do, scuba diving, skydiving, mountain biking, everything in between. That's I like to be as broad and eclectic as I can in my skills.
Yeah. And here's a good question. What's the numbered tags behind you?
Those are actually racing bibs. So those are some of the races I've been in. Most of those are ultras. So yeah. An ultra is any distance that is longer than a marathon. Usually 50K, but up to 100 miles. Well, at least I've done up to 100 miles. They go much, much longer than that.
Yeah, that sounds exhausting.
That's one of the things I do. The types of things that if you're the type of person where you bang your head against a wall for an enjoyment because it feels good when you stop, that's my type of hobby. Hand tool woodworking, ultra running. It just feels so good when you're done.
Yeah, you have something to look forward to it being done, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so so you like hand tools, you've been using hand tools, but you are not against pulling out the occasional power tool like a router. What power tools do you end up using the most?
If I had to bring in, well, my DeWalt drill is one I pull out from time to time. any time where I just need to get things done quickly. Because a lot of times when I'm here with Luke, time is money. We have 6 hours to shoot all of our footage for the next 2 weeks. And so we've got to get this all in. And so sometimes, I'll end up drilling 1 or 2 with the brace. And then the running gag on the channel is, who's got time for that? Pull out the demon-possessed yellow brace. And so the drill is probably the first thing that would come in the shop. After that, the argument in the hand tool world is, should you get a bandsaw or a thickness planer? And I am in camp thickness planer because the most time spent isn't ripping boards down. It is taking them to thickness. And so being able to take a 4/4 board down to 3/4 is hours of work with a hand plane, or a minute and a half with a thickness planer. And so up in my garage, I have a thickness planer, I have a jointer, and I have a table saw. All 3 of them are almost never used, but every now and then when I just have to get it done for the project, they come out. But yeah, and along that line, I mean, a lot of people think that I'm hand tool only and I don't have a lot of power tool skill. But to this day, I've probably spent like 3 times as much time with power tools than I have with hand tools. So I'm far more comfortable with a table saw than I am with a handsaw.
Well, thank you. And thank you for being here. How should people find you and reach you and follow you and subscribe to you?
Yeah, Wood by Wright on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Those are the best places. If you go to any of my videos, you'll see in the description links to all of the socials and where people can find me, or the 2 different Hive Mind groups I have. So get involved and hang out and have some fun.
Yeah. PJ, thanks for showing up. I appreciate it. And you can always catch up later.
Just here for the good part.
You're never late. One last question from Adam. Apart from getting someone else to do it, is there a more efficient way to resaw boards? This is a good question for a hand tools guy.
Again, with anything, it depends on the board. But generally, if you're resawing something that's 6 inches or more, having a good frame saw is an amazingly good thing, because you can get your full body into it. Even if the tooth geometry is the same as a handsaw, because you can get your whole body into it and put your weight into it, it just becomes far more efficient to use. You find that you're doing it much easier. So the amount of work you're doing is the same, but the effort you're putting into it is far less. But then again, it depends on the board. If your board is vertical in the vise and you're cutting this way, you imagine you're cross-cutting all the fibers. But if you lean the board at 45 degrees and you cut into it that way, well, now you're actually ripping the fibers out. So it becomes far easier to push if you lean the board away from you and you cut into it that way. And so there's a lot of just simple body mechanics and how you clamp the board and how you hold the board that will make far, far more difference than what saw you use. But in general, for me, if it's 6 inches or under, I'm probably going to grab the handsaw. If it's 6 inches or over, I'm going to grab my Resaw soft frame saw. So, different times I may feel differently. Yet every tool has its personality, and some of them scream to you for different projects.
One of the great things about woodworking as a hobby is almost any task, there's more than one way to do it. And if it gets the job done, who's to say that it's the wrong way, as long as it gets the job done and it's safe. So,
I love finding different ways to skin a cat.
Yeah. No cats were harmed during the live stream tonight.
That you know of.
Well, thanks again for being here. And I do appreciate it. If you ever need me, reach out.
My pleasure. Thanks.
And as for me, I hear my wife calling. I got to go.
You know there ain't another girl like her in the city. No, you know she looks so good, but she ain't so pretty. driving insane. Don't you know you oughta pump the brakes? I can't tell you why don't you let it go. I'm the line and if finally I'ma let you know you're somewhere in between my legs. Hey, you know there ain't another girl like her in the city. Yeah, yeah, you know she looks so good, but she ain't so pretty. I can't believe I wrote so long with this whole time you riding me wrong. Don't you know you oughta take a risk, try your best, give it to me straight, and don't deny or reply, I don't wanna wait. We're at the end of the road, it's time to let go of everything. There ain't another girl like her in the city. No, no, you know she looks so good, but she ain't so pretty. So leave me alone before I end it up here. On the phone with other reason to be held on my own for a while. This is where I leave. You don't have to speak. There's no room for goodbyes or desperate lies between the teeth. That's just how it goes. Everybody knows there's no room for your games. And all remains, there ain't another girl like her in the city. Yeah, no, you know she looks so good, but she ain't so pretty. So leave me alone before I end it up here. On the phone with another reason to be held on my own for a while. There ain't another girl, ain't another girl, ain't another girl. There ain't another girl, ain't another girl, ain't another girl.
Saw that there was a gap in the market.
working to become more natural. But that's just the more you do it, the more I do think it's important. As much as I'm not really a fan of saying having the avatar behind the camera, I do think it helps to imagine that you're actually talking to somebody who will be watching the video. Sometimes it's easy to forget that you see numbers of people watching, but you forget that these are actual people watching your video on their phone or on their TV or wherever. And I think it's important to keep that in mind.